right, good morning. Welcome to Shift. I'm so happy that we have Kristine Flesher, the Superintendent of Orono Schools. And Kristine, I have known since the early 2000s, a long time. And funnily enough, when we first met, found out that one of my college roommates babysat little Kristine when she was little at Spicer.
Favorite babysitter.
Spicer is nicer. And she helped my kids through school, and I think that Orono Schools has just gotten better and more committed to improving students' lives, their mental health, their character, and their connection. And so we originally thought this was kind of a follow-up to, remember, all the COVID, mental health, and issues with our kids, and certainly it is a good thing to follow up on. And I think since that time, the school has done a number of things, like phones out of the classrooms, which, as you might guess, has made a big difference. And so I think that today will be really good, because not only will Kristine tell us about students, but I think it will help us with our children, grandchildren, and our own relationships with each other. So I am so happy you're here.
Thank you, Jerry. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. And thank you for inviting me here. I'm super excited to be here. I'm supposed to be presenting with Katie Hagenson, who sends her very warm wishes to you, but she is home sick. So I've got some slides that she has, and I will do my best to pinch hit. Katie is our high school counselor, so I see many friends in the audience, and grateful to be here. I wanted to just spend a little time. Jerry and I and Katie met to talk about what are the things that you might be interested in, what were the questions. So we have a PowerPoint that we developed, and we'll go through it, but I'd love to answer questions and it to be a conversation when we're a small group. So we're here to talk about, or I'm here to talk about fostering mental health and what does it look like. And this was our agenda and introductions. So I'm Kristine Flesher, honored to serve as superintendent of Orono Schools. I'm also a school psychologist by training, and it's my 31st year in Orono Schools, 33rd in public education. And I am also a parent and a community member. I live in Independence, my husband John and I. And my husband is a hospice chaplain. We're both seminary trained, and faith traditions are important in our household as well. And so I wanted you to know that. We have two daughters, Jordan and Taylor, and they're in 8th and 10th grade. Now it's just crazy to me. I was just in marriage class with Katie and Neil. So I don't know how we have children this old, but it's pretty amazing. So, and I knew them when they were growing up, so this is pretty cool. And Katie, just so you can read her background, but she is one of our high school counselors, and a wonderful addition. We were able to steal her from Minnetonka schools about half a dozen years ago. So we wanted to talk a little bit about the questions that you might have, a little bit about current landscapes, what we're doing at school, and then really just talk about what we can do together as a community that surrounds our young people. We know how important churches are in our children's lives, and how our partnership is really important as we raise our children together. And I just have to call it. I see Lori and Roberts in this. We have a couple of Orono employees, and right over here, Miss Jenny Springmeyer. So I'm not the only one who could be up here talking about all the things that are going on at Orono. So our mission statement. We start every presentation with our mission statement. It's been tweaked this last year. We walked through an entire strategic planning process. I wanted you to see it because if you work in Orono Schools, this is why we go to work every single day. We believe in this. We're here for kids. We're here to make sure kids have great experiences in their lives, and we believe in what we do. Purpose is central to our school district, and it's central to the lives of every employee. And we talk about this. There isn't a presentation that we have in Orono where we don't talk about mission. Mission in churches, missions in schools. This is our mission, and it matters a lot to us. So please know that we're there to inspire and empower your children because we want them to have the very best life. And these are our goals. We've had long-standing goals, and as we worked with our community last year, we had over 1,000 people weigh into the strategic plan last year in our community. What we heard is, please don't do something really different. We like what you're doing. A lot of people, hey, we moved here for this. Don't make some kind of alter big course. We believe in having great academics. We believe in the character program. We want kids to know how to make good choices. And we heard this over and over. We had 17 community conversations, and we heard this from almost every group. We want our children to be seen, we want them to be known, we want them to be cared about, we want them to be connected to each other, to their teachers, to us. And so that goal has existed as relationships. Previously, we changed the word to connectedness, and I'll get a little bit more deeper into that in a future slide, but we're really excited about this and the work of that strategic planning committee, as well as the entire district, and all of our community members who weighed in. So just to take a pause on the national landscape on mental health is concerning. That's probably the best word, and it's for adults and children. Now, we probably have about anywhere from between a third and a fourth of people struggling at any time with their emotions, either regulating fear in some way or regulating depression or sad feelings. Feelings are a normal part of humanity, but it's when they're getting out of balance that they become concerning. So we know that to be true. We see it rising in terms of adults and in terms of children. And I would tell you that we see that same elevation or increase in Orono. We're very fortunate that we work really hard on protective factors in children's lives. I put up this was mailed to me by the Department of Education this fall, and it's just a table on the protective factors in Orono, and I just wanted to point out I highlighted the reported strong social emotional health. The Orono we had 92% of our kids saying that they feel really good about their own mental health. This is a self-report, which tells me that we're doing good work, but this is an area of significant concern for everybody, and it should be. We want our kids to be healthy and strong. And so I think a lot of what we'll talk about is just how do you get healthy and strong kids. And so one of the ways that we've responded, so as I mentioned, 31 years ago I was hired as a psychologist in Orono schools, and there were just a couple of us then, and now there's a lot more. So we have responded by, you can see our people. Please know that every single person on this slide is here to help you. If you have questions, as a psychologist, and now in my own role, I'm surrounded by these people, and I would tell you how important it is to just, even for your own sake, to have a coach, to be able to talk through. I've got teenagers now, so I need coaching on a regular basis on how to just navigate those times. So please know that all of these people are here to help you. We've got social workers, psychologists, counselors in every building that have deep training and deep care for your kids. We've also built a whole wraparound service over time. When I first started here, we've got Relate Counseling, who are outside therapists that come into every single building that have full-time staff here that will help children and families and work during the summer as well. So please know that. We also just happen to have, and I include myself in this, 5 of our administrators are trained mental health staff. So that matters. It matters that, I would say strategically think about how do we raise healthy kids, and what are the supports that help all kids, and have those in place for everyone. So one of the things I'll just mention is you can look at this with regard to literacy, with math, or you can look at into mental health, and this is the way we've built our system, that there are supports called MTSS. In education, we love to make up acronyms, all sorts of them. So multi-tiered systems of support. And if you look tier 1, that's for everyone. What are the universal supports? What's for everyone out there that we know help kids? Tier 2, what's for some? And tier 3, what's for the few who are potentially struggling the most? And a lot of the people you saw on the previous slide are the people who are functioning in tier 3, but they're using their wisdom to help build tier 1. So one of the things that we, in response to COVID, as our kids came back from COVID in kindergarten last year, we saw kids who potentially weren't used to sitting and learning and had been on screens, and no judgment, I get it, I was there. And how can we help kids? So we adopted a universal tier 1 strategy called Character Strong. And it's the first, we rolled it out this year. We sent kindergarten staff out to Seattle as a result of the Orono Foundation's Excellence Fund. So grateful for that. We sent them out there. I happened to be on a family vacation. They're texting me the entire time. They're like, this is amazing. They were on fire. They came back so excited. These are the areas that they're working on with our kids, and they love it. So like, for instance, all of September was just spent on kindness. So this is how we interact as a community. This is how we're going to be together in a learning environment together. This is how we work together as humans, and they just love it. So you can tell, that's a tier 1 support that's meant for all. We've got other grades that are really excited about it too, but just something that is new to Orono schools as a result, and wanting to respond, like, what are our kids showing that they need? Because Katie was going to be here sitting in this chair, she wanted to talk about the high school supports that are tier 1 and 2. So we have a lot of supports that are for everyone, and then that also are for some. Whether or not you can join the Wellbeing Club. Spartan Hour was originally designed as a place to belong, and then as a place to receive support and for teachers to be connected to kids. We do a lot in character counts and You Matter. We have got a You Matter week. We want every child to know. We also this year talking about that language matters. All of our language matters, what the words that we use in terms of civility. Our mentoring programs, I'd encourage anyone who's not involved to get involved in our mentoring programs. We have students who need adults in their lives. We've got a link crew. When I first started, when you started in 9th grade, if you went to Orono, you probably remember that, at least when I went to 7th grade in my high school, it was about how the degree to which you could be terrorized. I don't know if that was anyone else's experience. And so we decided that wasn't a really great thing to do. And we decided that the older kids, instead of doing that, we should have them shepherd the younger children and show them what high school should be like, and to care for them and to help them be connected. So Link Crew has been a huge part with that's the same thing we do in the middle school. The 8th graders do for our incoming 6th graders. It's their responsibility. They set the tone. We tell our older kids are setting the tone for all kids. Senior Service Day is the first, that day before graduation where everybody's kind of fruiting around, and we don't want kids to make poor choices. So we gave them the opportunity to do something different, and they came up with it. It was their idea, and they're out serving the community. So just a little thing, but a huge thing. It sends a message to everyone. We've got a lot of supportive studying halls for different kids for different needs. Probably one of the most important things we do is we hold an activity fair for our 9th graders when they enter, and we say, hey, choose 2 or 3 of these. Belong. Get involved. Get engaged. So that's our activity fair and a lot of our belonging work. Our school counselors push into our high school classes to do some lessons. I know SEL has become political, unfortunately, but it really is about having good mental health. So I can assure you we're not doing anything political as a part of that. What we're absolutely doing is helping kids just know that they're navigating tough times right now. We send all those things out to parents so that they can know And we have also, they call it a Zen room, but it's just meant a place to take a break at the high school. In our work of belonging, so this is an area that has truly grown. So 95% of our high school students participate in an after-school activity. I'm so proud of that. We're still working on who are the 5% that are not, because that we want to encourage and engage them. We may have kids who need personal invitations, and that's okay. We want kids to belong. We know that kids who feel like they belong will have better mental health and better experiences at school and do better academically. And it just happens to be that kids are doing really well too. So every day I'm like, I talk to the athletic director. I'm like, what do people say to you? Like, wow, and he just laughed. He's like, I'm just excited for the kids. So we're really excited about that, and think it's important. We work really hard on the people we hired to surround. I know many of the people in this audience have been coaches or officials, and we're grateful. If you aren't, or even if you are, we want you also to be involved in our clubs, in our plays, in our band, in our choir. And we've got a couple of new activities this year. We had a brand new robotics club that we have a couple community members starting, as well as new debate teams, and we're excited about that. So I wanted to go back for just 1 second to the connectedness goal. I have a frog in a pond, a little metaphor up there, or analogy. This is about probably the deeper work than just relationships. And it's really why I'm here today. This is about, we want our kids to grow up with connections, not just to each other, to their teachers, to the staff at school, but to the greater community. It's why our kids, Katie and Neil and I were just talking about our middle school kids who go over to Stone Bay. And my daughter absolutely loves that. She's in 8th grade now. They play cards, they play games, she plays her trumpet. And at a day when she had a really bad day, one of the residents wrote her a letter and dropped it and had it mailed to school. You know, that's what connectedness means. It's a connected community. Our little frogs need a healthy pond. And so how do we do that as a group? How do we do that as churches, as school, as parents? And so that's the deeper, harder goal, and why we spent so much time. You would have laughed at how many hours we spent talking about the word. Is it relationships? Is it community? And we felt like connectedness was a little bit awkward, but it was the deeper goal. So that's our goal. We want kids, we want a community of connectedness, and we want that for our students. So funny that, don't you think the thing that was supposed to connect us in terms of phones really hasn't? In some ways, I mean, my phone's right here, so I get it. But we also know that the research is suggesting that it's harming our kids' mental health. And what we noticed was after COVID, the middle school lunchroom was quiet. And that's not normal. Middle schoolers, if you've been in the lunchroom previously, it's pretty an active place that can sometimes be frightening.
Yeah.
And in its activity. So we knew we needed to do something. So we've always been for elementary kids that they don't have phones. But last year we rolled out no phones in the middle school. You can bring them, put them in your locker, and we call it away for the day. And I'll be honest, you know, especially after COVID, that was pretty rough. We sent the message, and I thought, I'm going to go hide, because people are going to be so mad. We took everybody's phones away. And we got 6 thank yous. So, you know, yay. I think people as a community saw this was good for kids. And so so phones are away from preschool through 8th grade. And then high school, developmentally, they're away. Last year we had teachers, like my 9th grader, it was away for most of the day. But if you were a senior, there was more latitude. It's still developmentally like that, but for the most part, I would tell you, phones are away at the high school now during class period, unless a teacher is allowing it for a specific educational purpose. So that's the rule. And we, once again, expected some backlash from either parents or kids or community, and nope, kids have been great. Now, not every kid, I get that. We still have some you're working with, but for the most part, kids have been great. And I've got a high school student who I get a lot of reports from her, and who said it's not a big deal. It's really good. They can be during the passing times or at lunch, and the high school cafeteria is plenty loud, so that's still good. So wanted you to know that. That's part of what we know, that just mental health wise, that we think kids need to break, and I would encourage all families to figure out how to set boundaries and limits on phones, and more than anything, screen time and social media. Social media is probably, I don't know, I consider it probably toxic for the most part, but how do we help our kids navigate that is really important. One of the other things I wanted to mention to you is we've been working really hard on something called positive childhood experiences, and we're trying to get the message out to families. You may have heard of ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. Here's the crazy thing. This came out at the exact same time, but that didn't get much press. ACEs did. ACEs are the rough things that happen to you when you're in a child, and the long-term health implications. Well, these are the great things that can happen to you as a child. Think of them as, we've called them protective factors for my 31 years. These are the things that you can do as a community to help your children grow up. What's amazing is it's not just about their mental health, it's about their physical health. You can see if you have one or two, you will have, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's significantly less chance of depression, anxiety as an adult, but it's also heart disease, it's diabetes, it's all those things that the more, and there's a direct response effect. So the more positive childhood experiences you have, the not mentally and physically healthier you are as an adult, for the most part. So we're trying to get that word out. Like, these are really important. We're also doing the work in Orono schools to say, okay, some of these are super actionable for us. They're super actionable for our community. So I'll just, and this is part of our connectedness work. We spent this year in the fall and still working on how do we think about intentional moments in kids' lives that we can build these things in. Are we certain every child has a connection at school? If we're not, what are we going to do about it? So some of these are, and I won't read them to you, some of these are really family-oriented, but we want to get the news out to families. And we have, and I'll just mention, for some of you might know the Chorleys. Allie Chorley is a graduate of Orono Schools, and we spent, I don't know, Bob would know, Mike would know, 4 years writing a grant to try to get a federal grant, and we finally got it in the fall, and it brought Allie Chorley to Orono Schools for the next decade, which is pretty amazing. And she's formed something called the Orono Coalition. I would encourage everyone to join in. And it's working on how to reduce chemical health and how to reduce mental health needs and intervention in our teens, and a lot of it is about building these protective factors. Single most important thing that you can do. So I mean, just getting the word out, like, let's do that for our kids. Let's figure out ways that we can connect them. It's about feeling supported. You'll see a relationship with at least 2 non-parent adults who take a genuine interest in you. Single most important protective factor. So what we talk about in school is, hey, we can be those people. Let's be that other person that maybe a child doesn't have. Or let's be the 5th person or the 10th person that we know a child needs. Let's make sure we have those connections. And then also, enjoyment in the participation of community traditions. Hey, we have a homecoming parade. We do a lot of those things, like traditions in churches, traditions as families, super important for kids. And the research would say that that's a positive childhood experience that will reduce their risk for mental and physical health and chemical health issues later in their lives. So I would encourage you to read everything you can about PCEs. We're going to, the coalition and Allie Chorley have a group. I think Pastor's on that. Yeah, he's on board. He comes and he's there. We're trying to get the word out for people to know, like, there's super actionable things that we can do to help our kids be healthy and strong. And I would say, I'll end by, Jerry had said can you give, this was Katie and I thinking of, can you give some advice to parents in the room? So part of this advice is just based on what we just saw. But the Surgeon General this fall came out with a response about the mental health crisis. And their advice was, or their findings were, mental health in children is generally about mental health struggles with families, that it's parents. So put on your oxygen mask first. Do your work. If you're anxious, seek help, figure it out. And there's lots of ways that you can help, get help, seek help, because healthy kids need healthy environments. So I would say we say that in, I would say, Jenny knows this because we've been in special education for years together. We talk about this with staff too. Put on your oxygen mask first. Like you're a role model to children. You need to be a role model and make sure that you're healthy and making good choices for your own mental health. Model what you hope for. I work on this every day. My children say, "Mom, you're not supposed to have the phone." Yep, you're right, good, thank you for the correction. So that's hard, but it's really important that set some norms in your family and then model them. Kids need that. Kids are watching us. We live in a time right now where I think sadly a lot of civility has gone out the window, and our kids need us to model that for them. As I mentioned, we are intentionally creating moments of care, of love, of listening for kids. We started an I Believe in You project at Orono, and we have staff over last summer that sat down with kids. We put it on video. It'll be coming out at some point. A few staff, and this is going to grow, but we sat down with kids and we spoke life into them. This is why I believe in you. You're why I come to work. I want to tell you why, too. And we're really excited about that. Staff did that for each other. We don't often think about strategically or intentionally creating these moments. We're glad when they happen, but my challenge to you is to think about how do you create those moments for our kids or each other or wherever you're at work or your church. And I put up a little thing on the top about ask for kids, especially because it's so often, and my kids would come up and tell you that I lecture them too. They call them mom tips. But everything's a lesson, that's what they say back to me. It's true. I would say, though, ask questions. And if you don't know what to ask, my husband and I, it's funny, I'm a psychologist, he's a chaplain, and we're like, let's go just take him out to dinner. And I ordered that off of Amazon. And we sat at dinner at Pizza Luce and just asked each other those questions. But here's the cool thing. My youngest child said, "Can we do that again? Let's do that. Hey, when can we do that again?" It's just about connections, about deepening relationships. I would say, and I get no money for that. It's just a shame. But you don't have to use that. There's 100 other things out there. Think about them. This was about that we're both super busy. And I don't, rather than let's think about something that would make it easier. And it was so much fun. So we went camping this summer and brought more cards and did that. So anyway, I would just say be strategic about those things. They really do matter. And then the other thing I would say, last piece of advice is, there's so much out there. We don't want bubble wrap children. While I talk about protective factors, I don't mean bubble wrapping. Kids need to learn how to cope. I think all adults would tell you that life isn't always easy and there are hard things. Kids need to go through hard things, because that's how you learn. And the beauty of it is you want them to do it while they're in your home, because then you can teach them how to cope. You can teach them how to go through it. I remember when Jordan, our oldest, was born, I read a book, and it was about raising children. And it really challenged me, because you're holding an infant that you desperately want to protect. And it was, if you want her to have character, if you want her to be strong, you only get there one way. You shouldn't pray always that they don't, it said, here are the 10 things you should pray for. Like a car accident that's not serious, that they get dumped, in a relationship, that they miss out on being on a team, all of the kinds of things that are hard, because that's how you learn to cope. So think about that and teach coping. If you're not sure, there's so many good books out there on teaching coping. It's really important. Kids need to know emotions are big, especially when they're middle schoolers. If you know, sometimes I'm like, why are we crying? And I'm not sure anybody knows. But that's just organically where they're at. But how do you teach kids to cope with those big emotions? You can do it. And it's for them to recognize them and to know what are the things that they need to do in those moments. So anyway, I would say that those were, as Katie and I sat down, our best pieces of parenting advice, knowing that we're just in the middle of it. And some of you have older kids, and you probably should be up here talking too. And then just the last thing I would say, I'm here as a wanting to be a connector in the community. You know, I really do believe that everything we've ever set our minds to when we've worked at an Orono, we've got data to show that it matters. So I'll give you an example. When we first started this work in protective factors 25 years ago, our kids reported that about 28% of kids were connected to their teachers. We're in the 90s now. That really matters. We had 97% of our middle schoolers tell us that they felt like they belonged last year. So it matters. Like, be strategic. And what the reason why I wanted to come today is to say, churches are incredible partners. Our parents are our partners. We're doing this together. We're raising our families together, and we want to be connected to you as a school. So, and connectedness goes across organizations as well, and we're incredibly grateful. We know how much our parents mean and have supported us, and our churches are incredibly important in that. So I'm here to say thank you. We're very grateful, but also we really want to be connected to you. It's important for our kids. I think I should have said that on that slide. So I'm happy to answer questions too. I think we tried to load in some of the things that we knew you were interested in.
Yeah, that's super great. And I think one of the things that you and Katie told me is that the lunchroom went from being quiet to talkative and people enjoying each other and talking with each other once you dump the phones. So there's I think some sense of relief for all of us when we don't have to have our phones. You know, it takes us some time to be like, oh, where's my arm? You know, where's my third attachment? But the phones are incredible tool, but also a barrier. So, questions? Charles, surprisingly enough.
One of the issues in this community and many is the issue of homelessness. And I'm wondering, to what degree do you feel that? Is it an issue at Orono? And how does that factor into what you're talking about this morning?
Yes, it's a great question. We absolutely have students who are homeless. We probably have fewer than maybe some of our urban peers, but it also then stands out all the more and can be really difficult if you're one of the 2 students or one of the 5 in Orono. I would say we've taken a community-based approach to that, and there are many times, like back when I worked as the director of special services or as a psychologist, that I would reach out to one of the local pastors and say, hey, what can we do for this family? And I've never seen a community just rally and wrap around kids. And so we work really hard on basic needs. We have a homeless liaison in our school. It's Marie Teckham. It was Julie Jurek for many years, for those of you who know Julie. Marie Teckham at our high school is our homeless liaison. And in our high school, we also have a Spartan area where kids, if anything from you're hungry and want a snack, to shampoo, to clothes, there's all of those kinds of supports as well. And so we don't have a lot, but we do have kids. And then we have other kids that may not be homeless, but they are technically, because they're maybe living with friends. So we're always just seeking, we try really hard to know all of our kids so we know who they are, and then we can sit down and work with them and their families on what do they need.
Hi.
Hi.
I've developed a late-in-life passion for first-generation college students and working with them. And there at my alma mater, they're still working on helping students reach their highest potential, their sense of belonging, their ability to navigate. And I'm wondering what Orono does to try to identify and coach and mentor kids before they're seniors, because I was first generation and no one ever helped me from school or motivated me, coached me to be a better student and use high school as a stepping stone to something greater. And you know, my father mentioned college once or twice if Penn State was playing on TV. Other than that, you know, there was no discussion. So, and the last question is, do you have room for community members like myself
Yes,
to become involved
please.
and also help the parents be more of motivators and understanding and get excited that their child could progress, but that progression seems to me needs to start in like 10th grade.
Yes, it
That's
does.
coaching, okay.
We started in like 8th grade now. So a couple things. Yes, we do. And in 8th grade, we have an academic planning course where we're talking to all kids about, hey, this is for anybody, this is for everybody. So that's the intended message in the 8th grade, and start thinking about it. But we do have specific. Jenna Torney as our youth development coordinator, and she runs a program. It's through our Achievement Integration Grant, and we take kids out. We take them to colleges when they're in like 10th grade, and we help them fill out applications, and we work with them to think of what's possible. And so it's a whole program. We'd love to have you involved because we have got a mentoring program that just help. Sometimes it is about the child needs to have someone sit next to them or a family to help them complete the application, and it's that important. But it's also, to your point, it's earlier than that. It's going on the college visits. So every summer we have a group of staff members that take kids on college visits. And they go visit, they visit around a number of colleges and see what's possible. And then we work with kids on what are the barriers. Because sometimes it's a belief barrier, or I just haven't thought of it. Barrier I don't think I believe I fit. But we also have been working, I sat down with a group of our students. I used to be the director of special services, and so that one of those programs was our English language learner. And I sat down with them, and it was interesting. We had a whole program developed at that point. This is a number of years ago, pre-COVID. And we sat down with them and said, hey, what do you think? And it was great because the kids were like, well, yeah, that's great, but this is why this won't work. And they had such great ideas. I'm like, oh, we needed to ask you. And we listened to their ideas, we tweaked everything, and we said, what do you need? What do you need to make this happen? If you want this, what do you need? And they told us. So we designed it around their ideas. So for an example, we ask students before they graduate from high school to take an AP class because it's potentially one of the single best experiences so that you can walk in and be successful in college. And what we know is we've got about 86% of our kids taking an AP class at Orono High School. And we had between 91 and 92% of our students who took either AP, college in the school, a class at the technical college, Hennepin Technical College, so that they can have those experiences. But we also then developed some supported study halls. So because we got them into AP and then they started to struggle. But then we said, okay, that's not going to work. So we had a teacher who said, you know what, I'm teaching that AP class, I'll do a study hall, and let's just load 5 kids into there. So they'll reteach a lesson. So we've got supported study halls, because a lot of these kids might be working after school, and so they can't come, or they might be busy on Saturdays, or they're in practice or something. So we tried to develop programs that meet kids' needs that way. But we have kids that we need adults. We have more kids in our high school than we have mentors. And Jenna Torney, you can stop afterwards. Jenna Torney, GENNA.TORNEY. Oh, there's, yeah, okay. And he's back there. At Orono.K12.MNUS. She runs that program, and we're always looking for adults. And you know, just the belief. A lot of times the belief is the barrier. Sometimes it's finances, but there's a lot of, like in the Minskew system now, with a lot of, I think, pathways for kids that didn't used to exist.
That's great. And Jill works with Jenna a lot. Jenna's been over, and we love to support in any way we can. Anyone else?
I probably need to move over here because my son won't like me asking this question.
I'll take you. I know your grandkids. They're good grandkids.
I can't wait to hear now.
With the concern about mental health, I'm sure you're focused on this. I'm a part of a group called PEO, Philanthropic Education Organization. One of the things that we struggle with is the push for higher education, always higher education. And it sometimes concerns me that, especially, you think of Orono, Edina, Wayzata, we publish the number that are going off to college and the colleges that they're going to, big deal. But there are certain numbers that should not go to college. I mean, that there's a lot in college that's just not appropriate for what they need, more of a technical school. How do we support those kids and also, say it's okay?
It's great. I would tell you that we do count, if you're matriculating to a technical college, that's still counted as matriculation. So, and part of that are those individual meetings. So when you enter in 9th grade nowadays, it's your first touch point. So you have the 8th grade planning class. In 9th grade, your family's invited in now to meet with the school counselor and you. I had my first one last year with Jordan. Super fun. And it's just about what do you hope and dream for? What do you hope and dream for your children? What are you hoping, student, that you're dreaming for? And for some kids, it is. It could be that it's not college, and so it's the individual planning process. And then I would tell you that, as the director of special education, I often was working with kids that I think most of them went to college, but not all. And so it's about celebrating their choices as well, and making sure they have the right supports. I've got a kid I can think of, I won't name him, that I'm incredibly proud of, but he's successful and he's happy. So it's about that. It's hard sometimes because in Orono, I'm be honest that you've got kids that are going to Ivy League, you have kids that are going somewhere here, but it's about celebrating their choices. So you need to know that we have a decision day for our seniors, and I go over, and I'm excited for every decision. I personally sit down with kids and say, hey, tell me about what you're doing. I often, because of my previous role, know the kids that might be going on to work. But what I would tell you is they need to be prepared. And that's our job. So I think a lot of it's in our communication and our messaging, but for families and kids, it's in the pathway planning that really matters to make sure that they have a good right fit. I'm not sure if I answered your question. Or if Gavin's upset with you, but Jean's been a big supporter of Orono as long as sorry.
Hi. Thank you for the school policy on cell phones. This might be a hard question.
Yep.
Because I know every situation's different, but outside of school, is there an age or grade that if you could wish, you would recommend people wait to give their kids? My oldest is only 5, but I've heard it only works if the parents of the friends or the social circle work. So, any advice?
Well, boy. I wish that we didn't give children such powerful devices when their frontal lobes are not yet ready for them. That's probably what I would say is a wish. In our family, I can just tell you what we do in our family, and then it's a daily battle too. So, in our family, we gave them cell phones because here's the hardest part. when they didn't, in like the end of 5th grade, which I still, to me, is too young. But they're all, that's, if they're not, then they're left out, at least left out. Now, what I've been talking to my children about is that there's some things that it's left out of. And trying to teach them that, and to, we have